searching for a forest monastery in Thailand. I arrived in Bangkok, and within a few hours I met the Thai monk Kitty, who told me he would show me several forest monasteries. We went to visit his monk friend at a small monastery by the river in Bangkok. I had to buy a pair of white pants and shirts, which are meant for lay people in the monastery. Lay people are anyone who stays in the monastery but are not monks or nuns. He taught me about the rules and duties of lay people and monks for living in the monastery, which was similar to life in meditation centers. I asked him if he knew any special teachers with supernatural powers, like I had read about in books. I repeatedly told him that I had to find a place in the forest where monks could live and meditate in solitude. Kitty had been a monk for over 20 years. He loved to travel, was sociable, enjoyed chanting, and liked talking about the Buddha's teachings. He knew many lay people across Thailand who invited him to stay with them for a few days. He found it a little strange that as a foreigner I wanted to meditate in solitude. He said that he couldn't do it, that the path to nirvana is very difficult and that only a few succeed in this life. The next day we traveled to his friend, a monk named Ian. He had a beautiful monastery surrounded by forest. He didn't speak English, but was very happy that a foreigner interested in meditation had come. I explored the place and often went to meditate in the forest by the water. It was beautiful, but I didn't see myself living there. He had an old car, and together with Kitty, we went on a trip and had a lunch. I drove because monks are not supposed to drive. It was my first time driving two monks, and it was really great being in their company. We never had any problems, and they were always smiling. In the morning, I had the opportunity to go on the alms round for the first time, where villagers offer food to the monks. I walked behind them the whole way and helped carry the food. Late in the evening, we sat under a large Buddha statue. Ian told me I could stay in one of the wooden huts for monks, slightly secluded in the forest. The wooden huts for monks are called kuti. He said there were many spirits around and that if I had any problems with them, I should tell him. This was the first time I had heard about spirits in real life. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have problems with them. On one hand, I felt a slight fear, but on the other, I was filled with curiosity. I wondered whether I would experience anything similar to what I had read about in books. After a week, Kitty traveled elsewhere and I went to the well-known forest monastery Wat Pabantat. After a while, Ajahn Martin arrived in the monastery, one of the best Western disciples of Lungta Mahabua. With him came a younger French monk and a lay person from Austria. Mahabua had passed away 2 years before I arrived at his monastery. He had been the last direct disciple of Ajahn Mun and had written books about the lives and practices of these extraordinary forest monks, which I had previously read in the library at Dhammagiri. After a few days of practicing samadhi, concentration on the breath and contemplation of the body, under Martin's guidance, we went to his forest monastery. Each of us had a large and well-kept kuti in the jungle, positioned so that we couldn't see each other. A narrow path connected all the dwellings. There were also 2 young monks from England and France. I often spoke with them about meditation. I saw one of them sitting in meditation with a smile after every meal. I could see satisfaction, deep peace, and freedom in him. Everything followed a strict schedule. We ate once a day and observed all the rules. All 3 young monks were tall and very thin. Every day we gathered for an hour, while Ajahn Martin spoke about the Buddha's teachings. He described how serious and strict meditation was under his teacher. He said that for 1 year he ate only once a week and had highly developed samadhi. He could see spirits, and for the first 5 years he did not allow monks to go into extended solitary retreats. He said that developed samadhi is so strong that one can see through a rock. Mahabua was known for very strict practice. He meditated 12 hours every day, from 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning, without moving. He would sit until all physical pain disappeared, and he no longer felt his body, only the luminous mind remained. Most of the day we were alone in our own kuti. There I practiced concentration on the breath, samadhi. I did not have such deep experiences as in meditation centers, because once a day we would be talking for almost 1 hour. I began practicing meditation on the decomposition of the body more seriously. This gives deeper inner insight into the nature of the body. You see that you are not this body. You do not find yourself in any part of it. When you no longer identify with the body, everything connected to it, material life, thoughts and emotions, fall away. The mind remains focused on the breath without thoughts for an extended time. I read that some monks meditate alone through the night at places where bodies are cremated to free themselves from fear of death. After a few weeks I realized that I did not want to be a monk in such an organized monastery under such teachers' guidance. I was also aware of a similar and very well-known tradition of Ajahn Chah. His Western disciples have forest monasteries in Thailand and other countries as well. I was open to different practices and teachings. I could hardly wait to spend weeks or months somewhere without seeing or hearing anyone. I always had an inner inclination towards solitary meditation. I did not want to be restricted to a single meditation tradition. I saw that within Theravada there were many different meditation practices. However, everyone claimed that their method was the best and the original tradition of the Buddha. Something was not right here. I knew I still had my whole life ahead of me, however long it would be, to discover the truth about this. After 3 weeks, I moved on to Chiang Mai. There I soon met Kitty, who had returned from traveling. He stayed with an older couple who had 2 rooms for us and a small shop. In Thailand, Buddhists are very generous. They donate money for building monasteries, bring food daily, and occasionally offer money, monastic robes, and all the essentials for a simple monastic life. Giving brings happiness. The Buddha taught that anyone who gives to monks accumulates a lot of good karma, leading to a favorable rebirth. Lay people support monks materially, and monks teach lay people meditation and the Buddha's teaching. In this way they help others progress on the spiritual path and seek a higher purpose, freedom from all suffering. Together we went to visit a temple deep in the jungle, where was also a cave with Buddha statues. Only a few monks lived there. Most slept in tents. After a few days I realized that I would not be able to stay there. It became clear that Kitty did not know forest monasteries like the ones I imagined. I was looking for a simple forest monastery with almost no monks, where I could meditate in solitude. Kitty, on the other hand, preferred company and conversation, so I decided to continue on my own. In Chiang Mai, I looked for accommodation and spoke with a woman who had a small shop. She was very kind and said that she also visited monastery. I told her that I wanted to become a monk and was looking for a forest monastery with few people. She said she knew someone who went to such places and immediately called her friend Daruni, who spoke English. We arranged to meet in a few days. I was happy and full of hope that this time I would find the right place. After a short stop, I traveled to Mesariang, where I met Daruni. In her car were two young Thai monks, and together we went to the market to buy food for the forest monastery. On the way, we stopped at one of her properties by the river, where she had some kutis. She explained that she worked in a hospital and lived near the monastery in the town of Melanoi, where her teacher Lompo Samaki had his main monastery, as well as two smaller ones in nearby villages. The roads led upward on steep and winding paths surrounded by hills and forests. We turned off the main road onto a narrow path that wound up and down through the forest until we reached a monastery on a hill with a large Buddha statue. Below it lay the small village of Manga, inhabited by the Karyang, a kind of indigenous people. Near the statue was a larger wooden meditation hall, two kutis at the edge and two more inside the forest. Monks rarely lived here. I immediately felt that this place was right for me. After lunch, everyone left, and Daruni and I agreed that I would stay there 3 days and meditate in one of the kutis. She asked, "What about food, since there isn't any?" I replied, "It doesn't matter for a few days. I have fasted many times before." She smiled and said, "It's very good that you can also go without food." Two older women from the village came every day, offering me a plate of food with broad smiles. They looked like members of an indigenous tribe. They had probably heard from Daruni that I was there and didn't want me to go without food. I really liked the place. It was exactly what I had been looking for. After 3 days of meditation, Daruni returned, and we went to the main monastery in Melanoi. They had chickens, dogs, and cats, a few kutis on sandy area, and two larger buildings nearby. One was a beautiful meditation hall, and the other contained living quarters, a small apartment for the teacher, a guest room, and many rooms for monks and lay people. I met teacher Samaki. He was 74 years old and had been a monk for over 40 years. He was smiling and calm, different from the others. Like Luang Po Ian, he was very happy that a foreigner had come to his monastery. Around him were at least 5 monks, but only one spoke English. I told him that I preferred a forest monastery, that I wanted to become a monk for life and meditate there for a long period. Samaki replied that I could not ordain there because many papers needs to be arranged for foreigners, which was only possible in certain monasteries. While speaking in Thai and smoking a cigarette, Daruni translated for me. At that moment I became anxious, feeling that I had finally found the right place, but it seemed I wouldn't be able to stay. Samaki told me to go to the river and cool off. Then he added that he saw sexual desire in me and gestured around my abdominal area. He asked if I knew that monks are not allowed to have anything to do with women. Everyone laughed. I replied that I knew. Daruni told me that Samaki had supernatural powers and could see certain things in a person. I again assured him that I knew the main rules for monks, that worldly life was no longer interested me, and that I wanted to become a monk for life and meditate in solitude. After a short pause, he said he had a student with a monastery far away where I could ordain, and then returned to him. After a month and a half of searching for forest monasteries, I no longer wanted to continue traveling. Samaki wanted a monk to accompany me, but I preferred to travel alone, so I decided to continue on my own. On the way, I met a Western. He said that all his money and documents had been stolen on the train. Yet he had a scooter, which seemed strange. He asked me for 500 baht. I gladly gave him the money and told him that I would become a monk and no longer needed the money. Then he offered to sell me a Buddha hat for 1000 baht. I realized his story wasn't true. I told him I didn't need it. He was surprised and said he knew someone who became a Hindu monk and also didn't need money. I could see that he didn't really understand. Most people think that such a life must be difficult because you give up so many things. So I briefly explained him meditation, inner contentment, freedom experienced on the spiritual path, and the higher goal of Buddhist teaching, complete liberation from suffering. I also had to call my parents to tell them I was going to become a monk. It probably seemed strange to them, but they had no objections. After a long journey, I finally arrived in the town of Roy Et. A monk, along with a driver of a comfortable air-conditioned van, was there to greet me. He introduced himself as Ajahn San and was very excited that I was going to ordain in their monastery. Ajahn means teacher, a title a monk receives officially after at least 5 years in the monastic life. Until then, the title Lumpi is used. Monks can also be addressed by their name. San spoke English very well, was friendly and knowledgeable, and was about my age. In their monastery, located in a village at the edge of the forest, I met the teacher Udam Sap, a student of Samaki. He was just over 60, of smaller stature, with a radiant face emanating kindness. He also spoke English well, having worked in England in his youth. In Thailand, he was known as a singer and had a family, but 30 years ago he renounced everything and became a monk. That same day, San shaved my head and prepared everything for the ordination ceremony, which would take place the next morning. I was excited and at the same time could I hardly believe it would happen so quickly. In the evening, lay people, monks and nuns sat together in the wooden meditation hall and listened to teacher Udam Sap. He told everyone that I had been with Samaki and had come to ordain before returning. When I said that I would be a monk for life, they specially respected this decision. Inside I knew I had concluded my worldly life. This was May 2014, more than 5 years after I had first encountered meditation in prison. If back then, when I was only interested in travel, parties, and women, someone had told me I would become a monk, I would most likely have just laughed.